Welcome to the Guard Exile. Are you looking for a total breath of fresh air on a different skill to try out, but for the life of you aren't able to come by a solid decision or build that appeals to you? Maybe you want to freeze everything in your wake and destroy those pesky bosses? Is it that you seek to rain down ice on your enemies to chill them before you serve them with some fresh ice cream? Well then, you have to try out the Glazed Ice Intelligence Stacking Ascendant. So, let's check it out, boy! For many moons, the Whispering Ice Staff has been abandoned and long forgotten since its release, as many either don't even know it exists, or simply have deemed it unworthy and a dead skill to use. The goal of this build is to take advantage of the level 1 Icestorm skill that scales off intelligence that we stack up via our gear, skill tree, and jewels to increase the amount of damage the Icestorm puts out. We make use of a weapon swap to ensure satisfying clear speed via cast while channeling and cyclone. The build is rather powerful on bossing with a self-cast setup that ramps the damage up and melts bosses in your wake, as it does 3 times more damage than the cast while channeling setup. We are also able to achieve being a tanky girl from the super high energy shield pool, block chance, and leech along with our ailment immunities. The build can be started as early as level 33 with just the staff to clear the entire campaign with a little bit of intelligence on all gear pieces, but mostly our skill tree. Once into maps, you will clear all the way into T16s with a very low budget and be able to do bosses with a decent amount of damage output. When you are able to acquire the ideal setup, you will inevitably be able to mount most content comfortably. So, are you intrigued by the build, Exile? Then smack that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified on my latest build guides and build updates are released to stay updated on my latest videos. Also, drop a like on the video as it helps me out to reach more Exiles, and don't forget that I live stream here on YouTube, so come swing by sometime to see this crazy ass South African. Should you need any help with the build, then join my community Discord. The link is down below in the description for you. If you are watching this build guide after patch 3.17 Arch Nemesis League and the title's patch number has been advanced, be sure to check the description down below and pin comment for updates on the build. Please note that the viability of the build is subject to change, as some items, mechanics, or skill selections may change in between patches. With this being said, the build can differ from the video. Your budget for the build can begin with just the staff that is only 1 chaos and some simple pieces of gear to a total cost of maximum 50 chaos. Once upgraded to somewhat decent gear, you can expect to spend around 5 exalts up to 15 exalts for the full setup that can be further invested in. Offensively, we stack up intelligence to increase the amount of flat cold damage the Icestorm skill has, as it deals 3 to 5 cold damage per 10 intelligence, while increasing the duration of Icestorm to ramp up the Ice Shard explosions. We then scale the flat damage with increased cold damage from cold to the core, an insane amount of elemental penetration from our curses, blanketed snow clusters, a wise oak, and the Inquisitor Ascendency. To further the damage output, we stack up spell damage increases from the staff's 1% increased spell damage per 10 intelligence, caster mastery also giving 1% increased spell damage per 16 intelligence, and the Tranquility Anointment for the increases and reductions to energy shield applied to spell damage at 30% of their value. We then boost all these damage increases from the Crusader modifier, 1% increased damage per 15 intelligence and the 3% increased damage per 100 intelligence implicit on our gloves. But wait, there's more, as we make use of Elemental Overload for 40% more elemental damage that is paired with our support gems, giving even more damage increases, and Aspects of the Spider making enemies take 15% increased damage. Defensively, our effective hit pool is around 80,000 plus. To achieve this, we have a massive energy shield pool of over 10,000 paired with Chaos Inoculation to be immune to chaos damage, our Pantheons for physical and elemental damage reduction, our Basalt and Granite Flasks giving our only physical damage reduction, along with a Wise Oak to reduce elemental damage taken for fire and lightning. This is further beefed up with our 55% chance to block attack damage, 39% chance to block spell damage, and our energy shield leech, which is over 1000 per hit. We are able to easily mitigate curses from Consecrated Ground and the Pantheon, along with being immune to stun, enabling us to just continue spinning or casting. To top it all off, we are also immune to Corrupted Blood, or shocks, all ignites, freezes, and chills, ensuring that we remain in the battle. We also make use of a Vol Discipline as our oh shit button and a Frost Shield on bossing for the extra damage mitigation. To finish off the defenses, our Enfeeble Curse makes enemies deal less damage to us, paired with Blind for less accuracy rating too. The playstyle is relaxed while mapping, as all you have to do is cyclone around to channel your Icestorms with Vortex on your movement button, while Frost blinking in between packs, and no Flask piano is required either thanks to auto use. In terms of bossing, you will want to weapon swap to the self-cast Icestorm to ramp up the damage and watch their life bars drain like crazy. Remember to use Frost Shield and Frost Blink to avoid deadly mechanics or to reposition yourself. For our pros, it's satisfying clear speed with cast while channeling. It's a relaxed playstyle and no button intensive tasks are required. The damage scales well with every bit of investment that you put into the build. It's really cheap and easy to get started off with just the staff being only 1 chaos. It absolutely melts the shit out of bosses with a 15 exalted budget. We are a crazy tanky girl having an effective hit pool of over 80,000. The build does almost all content except for Uber Atziri, the Feared, Uber Blats, and Wave 30 Simulacrums. For our cons, cannot regen is only doable with a mana flask. Degens are aids for the build to deal with, but it's easily avoidable with Frostblink. We are unable to do any form of elemental reflection. No leech can only be done with a Watcher's Arjul. Our class is the Scion with the Inquisitor and Occultist Ascendency, as they are the best choices for offensive and defensive options. We take the following nodes in order of priority. Occultist is a huge quality of life as we gain the ability to apply an additional curse that goes in hand with Whispers of Doom, totaling to 3 curses that have 10% increased effect. We also regenerate some extra energy shield and are unable to be stunned as we always have energy shield. Inquisitor, giving 8% elemental penetration, a 10% chance to create consecrated ground when we hit a rare or unique enemy, of which lasts 8 seconds and an additional 4 seconds. Nearby enemies also take 10% increased elemental damage, giving us more damage. The last nodes you must pick up are the Path of the Templar for the extra skill points that we gain. In the path of building is leveling trees, the current setup, and an endgame setup which is down below in the description. However, we grab the following keystones and masteries in the tree. Chaos Inoculation. Our maximum life becomes 1 and we gain immunity to all chaos damage to ignore getting any forms of chaos resistance. Zealot's Oath. All life regeneration is applied to energy shield regeneration instead. Elemental Overload. If we have dealt a critical strike in the past 8 seconds, we deal 40% more damage with our Icestorm. This effectively gives us almost 1/5 of our damage. In terms of the masteries, we make use of gain 3% of maximum mana as energy shield, 30% increased total maximum energy shield recovery from leech, 5% increased attributes, 1% increased spell damage per 16 intelligence, and lastly, 30% increased defenses while wielding the staff. Our major Pantheon is Soul of Solaris, which gives 6% extra physical damage reduction and a 20% chance to take 50% less area damage from hits, which is very powerful on bossing. We also take 8% reduced elemental damage if we were hit recently, and take no extra damage from critical strikes if we were critically hit within the past 4 seconds. Our mana is Soul of Ugil for the reflection of curses, but more so for the 30% reduced effect of curses that is well paired with our consecrated ground. In terms of the bandits, you will want to kill all the bandits for the 2 skill points. For mapping, you will want to socket in Cyclone linked to Awakened cast while channeling in order to cast the skill while freely moving around. The next 4 support gems must not be linked. An Anomalous Hypothermia helps increase the damage and to freeze chilled enemies that is paired with a Divergent Elemental Proliferation to spread the freezes we inflict on all enemies within a radius of 15. It also gives us an extra chance to freeze and increase damage. The 5th support must be Inspiration, giving reduced mana cost and extra critical strike chance to proc Elemental Overload, plus it gives us even more damage. To increase our mana regeneration rate, we make use of Arcane Surge, but more so for the huge more spell damage it provides us with. For bossing, you must socket in Cold Penetration for even more penetration. Concentrated Effect, as it gives 40% more area damage and allows for the Ice Shards to stack up even more. Inspiration once again to reduce the cost, extra critical strike chance, and for more damage. For the 4th socket we use Elemental Focus, giving even more elemental damage. Arcane Surge once again for the regeneration rate and the more spell damage multiplier we receive, and lastly Intensify, giving 45% more area damage with the 3 stacks of intensity, making for a truly deadly combo. In either your helmet or your gloves, we socket in Frostblink as a means of movement that can be spammed to get around quicker due to our high cooldown recovery rate for the skill, and it does not interrupt our Cyclone channels. Purity of Elements, giving us much needed resistances and immunity to freeze, shock and ignite. Clarity for the mana regeneration it provides us with, along with a Vol Discipline to bump up our total energy shield pool to over 10,000 and as the oh shit button in sketchy situations. As a means of activating all 3 of our curses carefree, we make use of cast when damage taken linked to Bore Lightning that must remain at level 1 and Hex Touch support to apply our curses on hit. You must have Enfeeble linked to them so enemies deal less damage to us for more survivability, and then Frostbite and Elemental Weakness, lowering their enemies' resistances by up to 90%, which gives a massive damage boost. Next is our gloves, where we get our 4th aura being an aspect of the spider to slow enemies and make them take 15% increased damage. This is where we socket in our Vortex, linked to Culling Strike and Bone Chill as extra quality of life, plus it does a decent amount of damage. In the last link, you must have a Frost Shield as extra security during dangerous encounters to mitigate a fair amount of damage. Lastly, in the boots, cast when damage taken is linked to Immortal Core and increased duration to prevent us from being one-shot to ensure that we remain alive in the dodgiest of times. A Phantasmal Wave of Conviction in the last link as a means of applying cold exposure for an additional 15% penetration. Firstly, our weapon is of course the Whispering Ice Staff that you must have 2 of, one for mapping and the other bossing according to the gem section of the guide. The staff gives all socketed support gems +1 to gem levels and our Icestorm ability. The intelligence roll must be 18% and cast speed 12% for maximum damage output, plus we gain a huge chunk of spell damage from the 1% increased spell damage per 10 intelligence. Getting the weapon enchant quality does not increase physical damage, but instead grants 1% increased elemental damage per 2% quality, gives some extra damage. Please do note that corrupting the staff is not an option as the block chance we receive is very powerful. Our helmet is a hunter influenced hubris circlet with either of these 3 enchants. Clarity, Purity of Elements, or Discipline has increased mana reservation efficiency. However, you can just pick up the mana reservation mastery for the 15% increased mana reservation efficiency of skills. You must ensure that the flat intelligence and % increased intelligence rolls are as high as possible with any extra resistance and energy shield rolls. Should you want to craft the item, the base must be between item level 75 and 79, then use a few deafening essences of spite until you hit high energy shield and a resistance. Make sure that all 3 prefixes are taken with 1 open suffix to slam it with a Hunter's Exalted Orb for the guaranteed % increased intelligence roll. The body armor can be either a Shaper or Crusader Vol Regalia for the % increased intelligence and high energy shield rolls with any resistances if possible. Should you want to craft your own, then spamming Deafening Essences of Spite on the chest will be the best way to obtain flat intelligence with a % increased intelligence roll. And if you have an open suffix, you can craft on % increased attributes for even more intelligence. However, this can get expensive very quickly. For the gloves, you will want a pair of sorcerer gloves that have a high roll in flat intelligence, energy shield, and any extra resistances will be solid. The best will be to spam deafening essences of spite once again to land somewhat decent rolls. Make sure to have an open suffix on the gloves so you can beastcraft on aspects of the spider via the menagerie using the venomous beast. To get the implicits, use Lesser Eldritch Ichor, giving 3% increased damage per 100 intelligence, and Lesser Eldritch Ember gives 15% chance to unnerve enemies for 4 seconds on hit, making them take 10% increased spell damage. The only choice as our boots is the Stampede, which enables us to cyclone at 50% movement speed all the time, making us a speedy girl. The increased mana regeneration rate helps us keep our mana pool topped up, along with the increased cooldown recovery rate of travel skills that enables you to spam Frostblink from pack to pack. The annoyance you will want any intelligence, but the best will be to have Allocates Tranquility for the 5% increased maximum energy shield, and Transfiguration of Soul, giving increases and reductions to maximum energy shield, also apply to spell damage at 30%. We gain some extra spell damage this way. Our amulet is a Crusader base with all attributes or intelligence and dexterity, or intelligence and strength. The ideal rolls you're looking for is the % increased intelligence and 1% increased damage per 15 intelligence to further boost our damage output. Any extra modifiers such as flat energy shield, % energy shield to raise our energy shield pool, and attributes will be a huge help to cap out gem attribute requirements. Your anointment should be Steelwood Lance, as we gain an extra 8% block chance and 800 flat armor if we have blocked within the past 4 seconds. The rings must have the % increased intelligence, strength, or dexterity implicits, along with any flat intelligence that must be as high as possible. You should try to get ones that have high flat energy shield, and any resistances are a huge bonus in raising our resistances to meet the 75% or res. Should you want to upgrade, then getting 2 rings with the synthesized implicit modifier, % increased intelligence, and spamming deafening essences of spite on them to get any high rolls in energy shield or resistances will be the best. Your belt should be a synthesized belt with the implicit modifier % increased intelligence with half flat intelligence, energy shield, and resistances once again. For a cheap alternative, a Cyclopean coil will do just fine until you can acquire the synthesized base. Deafening essences of spite are a great way to roll this belt should you want to craft it yourself. Please do note that using intrinsic catalysts on your amulet, rings, and belts are amazing to further the amount of not only intelligence but strength and dexterity that you gain from them. All of the following flasks must have instilling orbs used on them for either of these implicits, used when you hit a rare or unique enemy and used when charges reach full to prevent flask pianoing. The Wise Oak supplies extra elemental resistances and makes us take 6% less elemental damage from fire and lightning damage, as our cold resistance must remain the highest so that we penetrate 8% cold resistance. A Basalt Flask gives us more armor, which should have immunity to bleeding with increased duration on it. A Rumi's Concoction gives extra flat armor, but more importantly the extra chance to block attack and spell damage, raising our block chance a little more. A Sulfur Flask allows us to deal 40% increased damage along with an increased armor roll and duration for more armor. Lastly, Atziri's Promise for the gained % of elemental damage is extra chaos damage, which 2% of said chaos damage is leeched as life during flask effect. However, the leech is not necessary due to us already leeching, but should you want more leech, then you can allocate the Ghost Reaver Notable, which goes in hand with this flask. Looking at the jewels, we utilize many jewels to get as much intelligence as possible throughout the skill tree. Pure Talent socketed at the start of our skill tree, giving 25 to all attributes and 5% elemental penetration with 1 passive point allocated to damage and mana at the beginning of Templar. 3 Brute Force Solutions give lots of flat intelligence as it transforms any surrounding strength nodes to intelligence. The first one should be socketed next to Moulding, the second opposite Mind over Matter, and last one in between Overcharge and Endurance. A Fertile Mind transforms the nodes around it just like Brute Force does, except with Dexterity instead, and should be socketed between Infused and Frenetic. Having the implicit Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you with either of these 4 jewels is a huge quality of life for the build. A Watcher's Eye jewel is a godsend from the build while mapping, with a modifier plus energy shield gained for each enemy hit while affected by Discipline. Any other modifiers such as % of physical damage taken from hits taken as either lightning, fire or cold while affected by purity of elements, or gain % of maximum mana as extra energy shield while affected by clarity for more mitigation. This jewel should be one of the last things that you focus on upgrading with the build. 2 large 8 passive skill cluster jewels with added small passives grant 12% increased cold damage, which must have the passive skills Cold to the Core and Blanketed Snow for the huge increase in cold damage and cold penetration they provide us with. Any other passives, intelligence or resistances is a bonus, as you can adjust them however you see fit. 2 split personalities socketed into the large cluster jewel at the end of your skill tree pathing that have +5 to intelligence with either maximum energy shield, evasion rating, armor, or even mana. Our last jewel is a Megalomaniac medium cluster jewel socketed in the other large cluster with Cold to the Core on it for even more cold damage. The other 2 passives can be Disorienting Display for extra damage and Blind, Blanketed Snow giving extra penetration, or others which give any increases to intelligence, energy shield, or resistances. Leveling the build is very easy and stress-free with Spark or Splitting Steel however you see fit for your playstyle until level 33 where you can use your staff. From Acts 1 to 3, with your Spark you want it to be linked to Onslaught, Arcane Surge, Elemental Proliferation, added lightning damage, increased critical strikes, or added cold damage. Then you will want to use Frostblink linked to faster casting for movement, and Orb of Storms for the extra damage, Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice, and Clarity as your auras. For Splitting Steel you want it to be linked to Onslaught, Chance to Bleed, added fire damage, Maim, added cold damage, or added lightning damage. You must use Leap Slam linked to faster attacks to get around as a means of movement. Using a Holy Relic for extra sustain, an Ancestral Protector for more damage while doing your act bosses. For your auras you will want to use War Banner, Herald of Fire, and Herald of Purity. Some useful leveling uniques to get you on your feet are as follows: a Loctanial Caress, Wanderlust Boots, a Gold Rim, a Tabula Rasa, 2 Red Beak Swords, 2 Aberrath Horns, a Karui Ward, a Virum's Mold Belt, Hrimsorrow Gloves, 2 Axiom Perpetuums, 2 Lehoops of All, or 2 Berex Grips, an Astromentis Amulet, a Shiver Sting, or even an Edge of Madness 2. From Act 3, when you start using your staff, I recommend that you pair it with Berex Rings, the Virum's Mold Belt, and a Dodre's Scorn, an Icestorm, Dodre's Tenure, Astromentis, and a Chevron's Pace. From here on, follow the skill tree, gems, and gearing according to the guard setup, and make use of the skill tree for any extra life or attributes you require, as they can be respected later when switching to CR. Don't forget to use defensive flasks such as Granite and a Basalt to bump up your physical mitigation during the acts. To finish off the guard for this amazing build, I really started off with low expectations, but once I started using the staff and popped some random intelligence uniques on, the damage was just insane. I managed to mount every single act boss. Even going into maps, it became apparent to me that this build was not to be slept on. I switched to using the cast while channeling setup for mapping and the self cast for bossing as soon as I could, which made the character even more solid. I think I spent around 5 exalts to get 2000 intelligence with a decent amount of damage, and once I invested more to get the whole setup rolling, it became an absolute breeze to play the build. I leveled and did everything with the build on my live streams, so should you want to see how I got to where the build stands now, then go have a look, or come join in on the latest streams I do right here on YouTube to see the next build that I'll play. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, as I release update videos and detailed build guides just like this one. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and to share with your fellow exiles. Should you need any help with the build, then head over to my Discord, the link is in the description. I am always online and willing to help. Thank you to everyone who supports me, I really appreciate each and every single one of you. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video, live stream, or guard exile.